Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutchy Gaming, and the second part of my Atlas Tree for Beginners at League Start. The first episode, if you haven't watched it, I'd recommend watching it. It goes through the campaign, heist, early mapping, and picking up some essences. I asked if people wanted to do the follow-up part, where we're then going to go into Expedition, and basically everyone said, yes, I'd like to have a look at it. So we're going to go through the second part of the Atlas strategy when you're clearing your yellow maps. So the Atlas Tree that I'd recommend that you go for looks something like this. So you need 73 points to get this tree. So it's going to be, let's say, 71 maps and a couple of Maven invitations. And this is what the tree would look like. So it's the same as before. There's a slight different path in here. We went up the middle on the essence tree. It's actually 1 point less if we go this way. There's still more we can do to make it better, but I don't want to go using lots of orbs or regrets at this stage. So all this is going to go through is the expedition section. In terms of what does your Atlas completion look like for maps, I've done all of the white maps. I have 2 yellow maps left for completion, and then I've done a few corrupted T11, 12, and 13 maps, and then a couple of unique maps. So nothing mega. You should be able to get to this stage on your League Start character fairly comfortably. So what we're going to look at now is some examples of expedition within maps. We're going to go through what I get back from 10 expeditions. Then we're going to go through some further examples of Rog Crafting on my trade account just to show you what sort of gear you can create. Now, just to warn you, when you look at the footage, this is an SSF character geared pretty badly on a 5-link non-crit Rain of Arrows. So don't judge the build, but I wanted to be like a League Start scenario. All I've done is chucked a couple of essences on a couple of items to get some gear together, and it's comfortable in yellow maps, but I won't be able to push any further, which is the point of highlighting the expeditions. So let's jump into some highlights, and then I'll go through how to complete your expeditions and what to do with the currency that you get out of it. So I'm going to run through an expedition encounter. This is the first one that I've come across. So I'm going to explain in very basic terms how they work. If you already know how expedition works, then you can skip forward to a later part of the video. You get these things here called runic markers, and these are what add buffs to loot and monsters, but then they also add a downside. What you want to do is collect a few of these first to get the buffs onto your expedition. Then you're going to go and target chests. And these big skulls here are called runic monsters. The little ones don't matter. They will drop a little bit of expedition currency, but they won't drop reroll currencies and they won't drop loot. So what you want to do is go around and have a look at the markers that you can do on your build. So I am an attack-based build and I do a lot of lightning damage. So I can't really do anything that totally avoids lightning damage. I'm not ailment immune yet. I don't really want 10% chance of monsters to freeze me on hit because it could kill me over and over again. Same as this one here. But really what I'm looking for is what the benefits are. And then as long as it's a debuff that I can handle, I'm going to do it. So this one here, I would probably ignore. Plus 30% to resistances and plus 5 to max is massive for my build. However, this one's really good. Monsters can't be crit. I don't do crit with this build. 40% increase of items found in chests and 50% chance for runic monsters to drop a logbook. So this is the one I'm going to take first. And at the same time, I'm going to see if there's anything else I can take. However, I want to try and avoid this one and this one. If I have to, I'll take this one. I'm going to take it because it gives increased quantity of items dropped by monsters. Then what I'm going to do, I've got 5 explosions left, is I'm going to look for another runic marker that's useful for me. So if we go up here, monsters have ward equal to 20% of their life. I'm fine with that. So we're going to go and take this one. And then from here, I'm just going to go and take all the monsters and chests that I can. So we're going to pick up the rest of these ones. Again, this crit strike one doesn't matter. Going to go down here. These are not ideal, but we'll take it because that's more monsters and we can pick up another chest. And then it's just a case of going around and have a look. Have a look also for yellow and red chests. They should normally be 1. These, I think, have better chance of dropping reroll token and they drop more currency. But I can't see them. So now what we're going to look to do is just see how many markers and chests we can get with the remainder of our explosion chain. So I'm going to take this one here and then I've got 1 left. So I can either take this monster in this chest here, or we haven't done any of the stuff over here. So for now, we're just going to take this monster here and then these chests here. So now we've covered quite a lot of the map with explosions. We've picked up what I think we can for this one, so we're going to go and detonate. So I don't know what this resistance is going to do because I normally avoid it. It doesn't look to be too bad, actually. And as I mentioned, this is quite a scuffed build. This is a 5-link SSF. Non-crit Rain of Arrows, so it's not going to do a ton of damage, and other than evasion I don't have any defenses. Okay, so whenever they pop up with a voice line, that means it's finished. Just be careful, sometimes there is a straggler monster, but normally it will mean that that's finished. So now we're going to loot the chests. And you can see here, it will bring up when you actually get expedition currency. And that's it for that expedition. This is not a particularly good one because it wasn't an ideal area to have it. We didn't get any colored chests and we didn't get any reroll markers drop from the monsters. But that's generally what you want to do. Look for the runic markers first, then unearth as many chests and monsters as you can. We got an expedition in the next map. This time it's a Tusion one. So again, I'm just going to go through the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for colored chests. And we have a yellow one here and a yellow one here. So we want to make sure that we're able to collect those. Just going to go around and have a look to see if there's any more. There isn't. So now I'm going to look at the runic markers. So this is quantity found in chests with increased pack size. That's okay. Max resistance, as I found out last time, wasn't too bad. But with maximum life, it might not be great. But again, this is a really good one. 50% quantity of artifacts dropped by monsters. We go down here. We've got quantity of items in chests. Doubles the number of rare monsters. That's really nice. This one again, quantity of items. So there are tons that I can take on this one that are useful. And then we go down here. These ones are terrible. Talisman, rare weapon, and experience. So we're definitely going to go up here and we should be able to get all of these. So we don't need corrupted items, but we would like pack size and quantity here. So we're going to take all of these and try and get the monster marker as well, which we can get there. We're going to go down here and then we're going to take all of these here. Fire damage, I don't do a ton, so I'm fine to take that. We're going to pick up the yellow chest at the same time. Then we're going to aim for all the markers and all the chests. So there's a runic monster there. We're going to go up here. There's quite a few here. We'll go up and have a look here. We can take these ones here. And then the last one over here. We've pretty much covered nearly all of the map there with our markers. So this will hopefully be a decent one. If we survive. Tusion is a bit more tricky because he has a lot more enemies that block. So for my build, this might end up being quite bad. As you can see, it's a bit of a shit show because I doubled the amount of rare monsters as well. But at this stage, I'm not that bothered about dying. I'm doing this for loot. So I can see I've already got 2 exotic coins, which are his reroll currency. As you can see, when they block, they don't take any damage at all. And they do hit hard as well, some of these monsters. I've seen them shoot through big molten shells. So if you die, don't worry too much. Yeah, I probably beefed this on a bit too much. Okay, so we've now done that. So we're going to have a look at the loot. So we've got 2 exotic coins, which is really nice. I've got a very soft loot filter on, so I'm not going to pick half of this stuff up. And then we're going to loot the chests. So stack deck, and you can see we're starting to get some reroll currency there, which we're going to need to actually spend with Tusion. And again, we got a little bit there. And a little bit there as well. So that one was a much better expedition. We got 2 exotic coins, which are about 60 at League Start, but I would always spend these yourself. But again, it's just to show you the method of doing it. Now, I'm no expert at Expedition. I don't really go into do logbooks. I don't know a huge amount about the mechanic. I just know that get your buffs first, and then you get the chests and the monsters. So I've just finished 10 expeditions that I got in 13 to 14 maps. So what we'll do is just go through and have a look at what you get from kind of 10 expeditions. Now, unfortunately, the majority of them were Gwenin and Rog. So Rog is decent at this stage of the league. I've got no issues with that. Gwenin is pretty much worthless. We got only 1 Tujon, I think, and 1 Danig. However, the reason I say run them all is these 3 logbooks, which all are Black Scythe, which are the ones that people want early on, all came from the Gwenin ones. So don't ignore them just because it looks like you won't get anything. You could drop logbooks, also drop stacked decks from Gwenin, lots of good stuff. So these at League Start sell, I would think, for between 15 to 25 chaos each, and we've got 3 of them. So let's say an average minimum, you're looking at 60C for those, probably even more. And then we've got some currency that we can play around with. The main thing I wanted to demonstrate was Rog anyway, because the rest of it's really straightforward. So let's go through what you do with your currency. The first thing you would do is go to Danig. We don't have any rerolls and we don't have a lot of currency, but you'd look for these reroll tokens here. Normally, I'm just looking for Tusion because the other ones drop quite regularly. So I'm not going to do anything with Danig because he doesn't have any Tusion rerolls. I could use him to buy currency for other vendors. So you can buy artifacts for Rog, trading them for the artifacts from Danig. What he does do is offer discounted ones. So every time you refresh his inventory, you'll get a discount on these. I'll sometimes buy these if they are Tusion. Other than that, I'll ignore them. Reason Danny's really good is he can offer logbooks. So you could re-roll the inventory if you had a Burial Medallion, and he might offer a logbook to buy. For the first 10 maps, we haven't got any Danig re-rolls. What we'll do is we'll go and first look at Gwennen. So for Gwennen, because I'm level 88, I can actually get some items as bases because they're going to be 83 to 85. And all you're looking for really on Gwennen is you want to gamble and turn them into unique. So you're looking for massive ticket items like Mage Blood, Headhunter, things like that. So all you do is just re-roll the inventory until you get something good. Elegant Round Shield could be a Squire, so we'll take that. You're not going to get anything. I just want to warn you now, it's very, very rare. But if you wanted to go for something, jewels are also good if you've got any of the exceptionals, because they could be unique jewels which are worth a bit of money. But as I said, you might want to get bases. So you just have a look to see whether there's any bases that you want to craft on. And if there isn't, you'll just carry on. So heavy belts could be Mage Blood, so you go for that. Again, we'll look whether we want a base. So let's say you wanted an Assassin's Garb to craft on. You could take that and you've got an item level 83 Assassin's Garb. The higher level you are, the higher level items they will offer. I'm level 88, which I think is fine to start with, but ideally you want to be 90. So this quiver is not too bad. We've got loads of currency, might as well spend it. That could, you never know, it might roll really well. It didn't. It's a base again, though. It's a level 85 quiver if you wanted to craft on it. And this is the way you would do it with Gwennen. You would just re-roll until you see things that you like. So next we'll move on to Tusion. This is fairly straightforward. You basically re-roll his window and then you gamble for items. So when you click on an item, you can use your scroll wheel to go down and make an offer. If he doesn't take it, you have to barter again. We don't have a ton of currency to do this because it's sad. I think I only had one Tusion expedition. But you just go through and pick the items that you want. Normally, I would buy these. Fusions and vials are really good. But for now, we're just going to re-roll just to see if he offers us anything good. Chaos are super, super common with Tusion. You should end up with a ton of chaos if you end up having a few re-rolls and quite a bit of currency. So again, we'd go down, and I said we'd take the vial orb, so we will, because we've got a tiny bit of the lesser currency. Even things like chromatic orbs for this amount of money, I would take if you had the currency. Scours are quite rare, we'll take those. Tusion is going to be what you use to top up your map currency. And you're going to end up with loads of alchemies, chisels, scours, so you don't have to worry about currency. And as you can see from our stash here, even though we did quite a bit of heist, we are struggling for alchemies and bindings, which we need to roll our maps. The good thing about heist is when you go to your red maps, you've got all these vial orbs that you picked up in the contracts, so you're not going to be stuck not being able to corrupt your maps for completion. So we'll just go back to Tusion again and just do the last window. And he's offered us a divine, but it's 610 grand, and I've only got 139. However, we can just keep that window. So all we'll do is wait until we get more Danig and Tusion currency, go back in, offer about 400 for this divine, and then we'll get that. So lastly, we'll move on to Rog, and I'm glad we have mostly Rog because he's the most complicated vendor, but he can make you an absolute ton of currency early on. What he'll offer you is a load of items in a window. So as I said, these will be between 83 and 85 because of my level. If I was higher level, these would be slightly higher rolls. But for early game, you don't need it to be higher than 83. You're still going to be able to roll some really good items. So the first thing I'll be looking to do is craft for myself, but also look out for crafts that you might be able to sell to other builds. So things like +1 wands, +1 amulets, things like that. So all you would do is go through the items that you think are of interest. What you're looking for is an item with either really good prefixes or really good suffixes, or stats that are really good, but they might be low because you do get options to boost stats up. So we'll just go through. I don't think there's anything in this window that I want, so we'll re-roll. So as I say, firstly, I'm looking for gear for myself, but I'm also open to stuff to trade. So heavy belt I'll be interested in, but the rolls are garbage. We have a rubbish amulet there, terrible amulet there, rubbish ring, and nothing else is a very good base. So again, we'll just move straight on. And then we've still got 2 re-rolls, but we're running out of currency. So again, we're just going to check these items to make sure there's nothing really good that we can craft. Again, there isn't. Again, we'll just check the ring. Nothing. The belt, terrible. Other belt, terrible. Wand. I don't know much about wands. I'm just looking for +1 gems. There's none on either. And we've got no amulets. So again, we'll just do our last window. So this shield has potential. It's got T2 spell suppression, it's got life, it's got fire res. So if we can get some upgrades, it might be something that's decent. So I don't want to do this because I actually quite like those suffixes if we could get them improved. So we're going to skip. It's going to add a prefix, which we'll do. Again, I really would rather try and upgrade those, so we'll skip reroll prefixes. So now you make a decision because we've hit T2 life, T1 evasion, and percentage evasion. So already this shield's not too bad. So now we need to decide whether we want to take a gamble. And I think it's worth it because it could roll ailment avoidance. So we're going to go upgrade. And we lowered the spell suppression, got T2 chance to block, and cold. And then the last one is upgrade 1 tier. So we'll just need to pay attention to what this might be. And then it's given us one last chance to re-roll suffixes, which I think we might as well do because they're just not very good. So we ended up with a fairly decent shield out of this. So we ended up with one item that I think would be worth some currency at League Start, and that's this shield. 1400 evasion, 33% chance to block, big life, decent spell suppression, and like I said, big evasion. This is something that for a claw shield build or a sword shield build where they run dexterity builds, I think this would definitely sell early in the league for a decent amount. Now, chaos is not going to get you hundreds and hundreds of chaos, but you might be able to sell this for 20 to 30 chaos at League Start. And like I said, that window is quite unlucky. You'd normally be left with items that were worth selling. So I just wanted to elaborate a bit more on Rog because I feel like with those amount of rerolls, I didn't really have a chance to go through it properly. So what I've done is I've done to my main account. I'm going to go and do some Rog Crafting, record it, and if there's anything of note, I'll show you the highlights in a second. What I wanted to go through was my SSF Tornado Shot character. Now I migrated it to trade because I wanted to start this new SSF journey, but nearly all of my gear has been Rog crafted. So I wanted to give you an idea of the sort of gear that you can end up with Rog. So this quiver was Rog crafted, as you can see. It's T2 crit multi, T1 prod speed, T3 lightning damage, T4 life, and T2 damage of bows with an open suffix. This quiver would beat multiple divines at League Start, and this you really don't need much better for a bow build, especially something like Tornado Shot. You don't really need a quiver better than this for the first few weeks of the league. The helmet was Rog crafted, again, massive life, double resistances, chaos res, and an open prefix. The boots were also Rog crafted, 35% movement speed, massive life, evasion, and 2 big resistances. And then the last item was this ring here, which is massive chaos, massive cold, strength, 42% LE damage with attacks, and an unopened prefix that either craft life or non-channeling skills. Now, this is when I was concentrating on expedition, so this wasn't just from 10 expeditions. This was from days of farming expedition, having lots of rerolls and being able to craft items, but this is what you can end up with. I had 18 Rog rerolls in my trade account, so I thought we'd go and do a little bit more Rog crafting just to give you more idea of what you can get because we were pretty unlucky with the ones we had in the SSF account. And I've ended up with 5 items, a shield, a bow, an amulet, a quiver, and a ring. I've recorded the footage, so what I'll do is just talk through the footage of the crafts so you can see kind of the process of it, but it's very similar to what we went through earlier on. So the quiver was the first item. It's not an ideal base, pierce and additional target, but it had some stats that I thought looked decent. One being damage of bows, prod speed, life, and lightning damage to attacks. We don't want any resistances on quivers, but if we get re-roll or remove, there's a good chance that we can make this decent. So we'll just press play, and then we'll go through the crafting process. So as I say, this isn't the ideal base. So straight away, it's upgrade the level of 2 modifiers by a tier, which is nice. We've done it. It's upgraded the life to tier 2, and then the cold resistance to T1. Now, eventually, we probably want to re-roll these suffixes because we don't want cold and fire resistance. With them all being T1, it's going to be difficult to remove them. So we're going to the next step, and it's re-roll prefixes. Now, these prefixes, I don't want to re-roll. T1 life, T2 damage to bows, T3 lightning damage to attacks. So I'm hoping I skip that. This is what we were looking for, because although prod speed is good, there's much, much better things we can roll other than cold and fire resistance. And it's re-roll suffixes 10 times, keeping the best outcome. So I'll upgrade this. And it gives me damage over time multiplied with skills, lightning resistance, and prod speed. So for the sort of item we're looking for, which is an attack base, this doesn't really help at all. We're basically in the same position that we were before. Again, it's trying to get me to reroll these prefixes that I don't want to do. Then it was just upgrade the values within the tier of the prefixes. Then again, it's giving me the option to reroll the suffixes. So again, we do it. And this time, it pretty much goes back to what it was before. Cold resistance, fire resistance, and prod speed. However, it's now giving us it again. Reroll 10 times, keeping the best outcome. So again, we hit it, and then this time we hit the jackpot. T2 crit multi, T2 prod speed, and some dexterity. Next, it's going to help us out even more. Upgrade the level of 4 modifiers by 1 tier. So we do that, and we already have 1 tier 1. So basically, it's going to upgrade all but 1 mod, 1 tier. And then we can see here with the finished item, we've got 97 life, 46 projectile speed, 42% increased damage with bows, 38 crit multi, lightning damage, and dex. This is something, if it didn't sell because of the implicit, because it might break a couple of builds, this is prime for a Varl orb. If you can get a Varl implicit on this and keep the stats, this quiver is going to be worth multiple divines. So we'll move on to the next item. And the next item is this amulet. Now this wasn't that great. I just thought it's got high res, high crit multi. I'm just going to take a chance on this one, and this one was a bit of a gamble. And really I was just looking to try and get some +1s or maybe like a massive crit amulet. So again, these things are really good because it's just freely upgrading the stuff that you've already got. So let's upgrade the level of 3 modifiers by 1 tier, so we'll take that. Now it's saying, do you want to remove the 2 modifiers with the lowest levels? And actually I don't, because I want to keep that crit multi, so we're going to skip it. Now it's add a prefix. You don't necessarily have to do this because you might want an open prefix, but I wanted to try and get life. We gambled and we got +1 to lightning skill gems. So now we've got an amulet with T2 crit multi, T2 all res, +1 to lightning skill gems, and tier 2 energy shield. So I have no idea about spell builds, but I imagine this would be worth a penny or two at least. Like nothing amazing, but I think it would be worth some currency. So again, we take the item, and our finished item is big crit multi, big energy shield, big resistances, lightning skill gems on an intelligence base. Not too bad. And the next item that I looked at was a bow. Now this bow's nothing special, but it has got half decent fire and cold damage on it. It's on an imperial bow base, which is good for non-crit builds. So I thought if it gives me a chance to reroll suffixes and maybe get some attack speed and then improve that fire and cold, this bow then definitely becomes sellable early in the league. So we take the bow and straight away it gives us what we want, reroll suffixes. We reroll it, it gives us nothing. Now it gives us the option to reroll prefixes. It's a gamble. At this stage I don't really want to do it because I might get the option to upgrade those, and if we can maybe get T2 fire and T2 cold and some attack speed, that's worth quite a bit of money early in the league. So then we get what we want again. Reroll the suffixes 6 times, keeping the best outcome. And we've hit attack speed. We've hit tier 3 attack speed. So now we've got a bow that, as it is going to sell at league start. Not for loads, but you get 20 or 30 cows for this bow. I'm then looking to try and upgrade the prefixes. So now it's giving me the option to add a suffix. And I don't really want to do this because there's not really one I want on a non-crit bow. It's likely to give me something like accuracy or resistances. I can craft something better as a suffix. So I'm going to skip this. What this has done now, however, is caused me a problem because it's asking me to reroll the prefixes and I really don't want to, but you can't skip 2 crafts in a row. So I've got 2 options. Take it as it is or gamble. And although this would probably sell for a few chaos, if we can get lucky, it's going to sell for even more. So I'm pretty sure I gamble on this. And I do. And we end up with basically the same roll. T3 lightning, T3 fire, percentage fizz damage. So we take the item and we're left with a bow with 2 T3 elemental rolls, attack speed, lightning resistance, and a suffix. And then on this one, I end up crafting attack speed when a rare or unique enemy is nearby to boost the boss damage up on this bow. Next, we've got a ring. Now this ring, I'm not even sure it would sell, but it had 2 big suffixes in terms of attributes, and it had T1 all elemental resistances with decent mana and decent energy shield. So I don't know every build, so it might be something that sells, so I decided to take it in case it just said keep upgrading the tiers, and we end up with lots of T1s. So first thing it offers me is reroll suffixes. I'm not going to do that because the main reason I've taken the item is for the suffixes. And here we go again. Upgrade the level of 2 modifiers by 1 tier. So we're going to do that. It's pushed the dex up. So we've now got T2 dex, T3 intelligence. Now it's offered us add a prefix 3 times, keep the best outcome. Now there's a chance I could get T1 life, but I think rings have such good prefixes that you can craft that I don't want to fill my prefixes. So we're going to skip it. Again, we get to upgrade the level of 2 modifiers by 1 tier. We upgrade. So we've now got T1 energy shield. Again, it's given us yet another upgrade option. So we're going to upgrade. Now it's saying, do you want to reroll suffixes? Again, I don't want to reroll the suffixes. Reroll modifier values. And then again, upgrade the level of 3 modifiers by 1 tier. So now we've got T1 intelligence, T2 dexterity, T1 elemental resistances, T1 energy shield, T3 mana, and an open prefix. And then it's just reroll at the end, keeping the best, which we're going to do because we've got low dexterity on there. And this is the item that we ended up with. 51 dex, 48 intelligence, 47 energy shield, 68 mana, 16 all res, and a prefix. That prefix can either be non-channeling, it could be life. This even though I don't know if there's any build it particularly suits, it's got really, really high stats across the board. So I think it's something that would sell. And then we'll come into the last item, which I think is actually the best item. And this was just a pure gamble. I know Lacquer Buckler on attack-based builds that use one hand is the sought after base. So I thought I'll take it just to see if we can get lucky, because the evasion and the life on it are okay. If we can reroll the suffixes, we might be able to get something decent. So this is an example of a pure gamble. As you can see, I'm not even sure whether I want to go with it. The only reason, honestly, that I go with it is because it's my last Rog reroll. I've got loads of currency. I'm like, let's just take a gamble. And so we take the item straight away, pretty decent one. Upgrade the level of 4 modifiers by 1 tier. We're going to do that. And then it's allowing us to remove the rubbish suffixes that we don't want. So again, we're obviously going to do that. So now we need to start getting lucky with gambles. So let's add a suffix 3 times, keep the best outcome. And it's giving us T2 spell suppression. Now, again, add a prefix 5 times, keep the best outcome. Shield, there aren't many good craftable prefixes. It's very likely that this gives us a big defensive percentage or flat evasion. So it's definitely something I'm going to do. And then it gives us T2 evasion and stun and block recovery. Not the best, but not terrible. Here we go again. Upgrade the level of 4 modifiers by 1 tier. And it's upgraded the spell suppression. So we've now got shield, T1 life, T1 evasion, T2 life regen, T1 spell suppression. Now, this is the one I was not sure about because I haven't crafted a shield for a while. I probably should have gone away and looked at what suffixes you can get. What I was thinking was, if I can get ailment immunity on this, this shield is worth multiple divines, even at League Star. So I thought it's worth the gamble, because even if it gives something like a resistance or attack speed, it's still worth money alone for the spell suppression, life, and evasion. So I do go with it in the end, and we hit T1 dexterity. That's never a bad thing to get. So we've now got T1 dexterity, T1 spell suppression, T2 regen life, T1 evasion, and T1 hybrid evasion. And then that's the item. We take that. That will 100% sell at League Start, especially if there are any builds that use like claw or shield or sword and shield, and they want a dexterity based shield. This will 100% sell just because of the life and spell suppression alone. And that's more of a representation of what you can get with Rog. The first lot of currency was very unlucky. So we have our big shield that we could sell. The bow, if you're early on in the league, would sell. The ring, I'm not sure. I think it would. Again, the amulet, I don't know, because I don't know these sort of builds, but I would think you'd be able to sell that. You would just look at something on the market with T1 elemental resistances, T1 skill gems, and crit multi, and see what comes up. And the quiver, again, is big. It will definitely sell. The implicit is not very good. There's not many that needs extra pierce, and it does brick some builds. For those where it doesn't brick it, it's basically a duff mod. Like, you'd rather have something like increased daily damage, increased crit chance, projectile speed. So what we're going to do, because this is just for demonstration purposes anyway, is we will chuck a Varl Orb at this. And it changed it to a better implicit, which is good. Now, it doesn't necessarily help for an elemental build, but if you were doing something like a phys conversion, 11 to 19 added physical damage is not too bad. But what this does is it then removes that brick for ones maybe where builds cannot pierce. So it could have landed a better implicit, but this is a very, very good quiver. At League Start, it's going to sell for a lot of currency. T1 prod speed, T1 crit multi, T1 life, T2 lightning damage, T2 damage with bows. And that pretty much wraps up the expedition part of the video. But my recommendation for when you League Start, if you just want a guaranteed way of making currency, is Heist into Essences, into Expedition, into Syrian Exarch Altars, and farming invitations. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and see you in the next one.